Hi, how's it going? My name is Sirach. I'm one of the students in the Practices of Community course. For this fieldwork assignment, I'm going to be talking about my experience at Epiphany Episcopal Church. This falls under fieldwork number 1, participate in a children's, youth, college, or senior adult ministry program or event that I'm not familiar with or do not regularly participate in. So for this week, I went to visit a Episcopal church. It's called Epiphany Episcopal Church, located in Richardson, Texas. It's about 5 minutes away from my apartment. I drive by it all the time, but they had an 8:30 a.m. service that I went to on Sunday morning. The building was a very beautiful building. I mean, it was the type of architecture and the art that was decorating the hallways, the outfits that the priests were wearing. I felt like when I walked in, there were 50 or 60 priests, but upon asking one of the members who each person, was, that were dressed in the robes and the different garbs, he pointed out who the 2 or 3, priests were, and the rest of the people were volunteers and stuff like that. Upon walking in there, I felt like this sense of reverence. The demographics of the church, I would say there were probably 200 to 250 people in the church. The average age of the congregation was probably 65, and myself being 31 and African American, I stood out. The majority of the congregation was white. I felt like it was a very historical sanctuary. I mean, I haven't sat in a wooden pew in over 15 years in church. I felt like I was participating in something sacred. The way that they sang the Psalms, I felt that the way that they read the scripture, it all just had this sense of holiness and reverence to it. There was, if I can remember, it was broken up into scripture reading, singing, and scripture reading, and then singing, and then the pastor, her name was Betsy. She gave about a 15 to 20 minute sermon, and she had just recently gotten back from a mission trip in South America. And so hearing her share her experience, and she was honoring different people in the audience, it kind of reminded me of the discipline of just a testimony and gratitude. She spent a significant amount of time just thanking the congregation for their support of what they were doing in South America. She told a few stories. And as someone who was a visitor that day, it was really encouraging to see kind of this communal aspect of the church participating in a trip that a lot of them were not a part of, but they were a part of through their support. It's always interesting going to visit a church because I've been going to the same church for the last 15 years or so. When I walked in, all of my senses were just on, and I immediately sensed that I was very different from the demographic there. But there were a few key people that walked up to me and said good morning, and asked me, what brings me there. And I really appreciated that. They had an 8:30 a.m. service, and then after the service, they had a Sunday school class that people kept inviting me to. But I wasn't able to attend the Sunday school class. I was only there for I think it was about an hour and 15-minute service that I was there beforehand. So I wasn't able to attend the Sunday school class, but they were telling me after Sunday school they usually eat with each other, and I sensed this, this energy of hospitality that the church was wanting to welcome me into, even as a first-time visitor. I know I was only there for one service, but I had a feeling that this church practices the practices of community, even though there wasn't a lot of space created for promise keeping, for truth telling. I definitely sensed that they're a church that takes the practices of community very seriously. In fact, Betsy afterwards had said thank you for coming to me, and she invited me to a Bible study that they're starting next week called Diving into the Mysteries of Christ. And I had just never heard of a Bible study with that kind of title. Usually at the church that I go to, we're doing a study on John or a study on 1 Corinthians, but it was a very intriguing title. of a Bible study. My reflections were, it was just so different. I felt like by the time communion arrived, oh, that was another thing. I felt like the whole service was leading up to this event of communion, and walking up to the front, receiving, the elements of communion in front of the congregation, kneeling down, drinking the wine. It was very exciting, and I really appreciated that. Anyway, thank you for hosting this fieldwork assignment. I was really intrigued by it, and I loved my experience, and I made some new friends. So sorry that I went a little bit over. Hope you're having a good day, and yeah, looking forward to the content this week. Bye.